This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the To Hull and Back podcast for another opposition preview. And today we're going to be looking ahead to the Hull City versus Huddersfield Town match. So we've got Tom Bradshaw from the And He Takes That Chance podcast, and not on a train this time. You may remember, in the last episode we tried to record from you tried to record from a train, but this time we're all, stationary, if that's right. And hopefully it goes better. So how are you doing, Tom?
I'm not bad, mate. Yeah, hopefully you'll get more than I think it was about 4 words out of me until I froze last time. So yeah, I'm all good. I'm sat in my chair. The Wi-Fi is on. We're good.
Marvelous. So I mean, Huddersfield-wise and football-wise, probably not as happy because Huddersfield have had a few, a lot of bad results recently. You find yourselves 23rd in the table, but you've had 2 wins against Preston and Rotherham. So just as a Huddersfield Town fan, how are you feeling about the club's situation at the moment?
It is worrying because to go back down to League One feels like we'll have done the whole loop. Do you know what I mean? Getting up to the Premier League almost felt like football was complete. And I don't know if I don't know, in a weird way, it might have hindered us a bit. And if you look over the history of Huddersfield Town, that's how things work. Like we go up, we're on a great high, and then we go crashing down. And that's just obviously the way the club goes. I think we're desperate to stay up there this season because Dean Hoyle is wanting to sell the club, and you're going to struggle to find a buyer in League One, I think. So yeah, not great at the moment. In Huddersfield, mate, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Hull City fans know exactly what it's like to be in the heights of the Premier League just as recently as 2017, and then it was 2020 we got relegated, so just 3 years later, and it'll be 4 years after the Premier League for Huddersfield, so a pretty similar situation if you do go down. And of course, we did get a new owner, but that was only when we got promoted back to the Championship. It's very hard to find an owner that you can be perhaps positive with at that lower level. I forgot to mention, we do very much appreciate our sponsors 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar. There, I'm not going to get kicked off the podcast now. So tell me a little bit about how the manager is doing, because I don't remember who the manager was when Huddersfield first played Hull this season, because it had been Danny Schofield. Now it's Mark Fotheringham. So the manager situation, how did the first manager do, and has Fotheringham improved you at all?
Yeah, so it was Schofield when we played you. It might have been one of Fotheringham's early games. Do you know what? I can't remember. We've had it
so long ago.
Just things go on, don't they? With that World Cup break, it feels like we're in a completely different season as well.
It does.
But Fotheringham, he's a bit of a Marmite manager amongst fans, I think. Some people like him, some people don't. I think I'm leaning towards. I actually think he's doing a decent job with what he's got. We've had a terrible record with injuries this year. There's not money to spend. He's even said that in his press conferences. It's like if we're getting any players in January, they're going to be freebies or loans. So I actually think, given the circumstances, to claw us back into some sort of position where we're looking at the table and thinking, you know what, we might have a chance of staying up. Whereas when he came in, unfortunately for Danny Schofield, it just didn't work. And at that point, we were looking pretty destined to go down. But I'm more on the positive spectrum of Town fans, but I actually think he might have a bit of a miracle up his sleeve and keep us up this season.
Yeah, and just to inform you, it was Fotheringham in charge when you beat us back in Huddersfield. But yeah, as you said, the World Cup, it's been so peculiar, and the Premier League isn't even halfway through, and it's January. It's really strange. But so you said that he's doing a decent enough job with what you've got. So of course it's a January transfer window now. You've made 2 signings, but what does the club need? And have the 2 signings that have come in helped that at all, or do you still think there's a lot more that needs to be done?
So we need a left back, or we need someone to give Josh Ruffles a bit of competition, because look, Josh Ruffles came in off the back of a really good spell at Oxford. I think he scored a silly amount of goals for a left back a few years ago in League One, and then he never really got a look in last season because Harry Toffolo had such a good year. So it's almost like he had a year without playing first team football, and then he's come in this year and he's just struggled a bit. He's struggled against quick defenders, people who are going to run at him, which worries me a bit when I've seen a few of your games recently. You seem to love the players down that right,
Pace on the wing.
Yeah. So a left back, maybe. I think we need a backup keeper because there's rumours that Nichols might be injured, potentially long term. There's a lot of stuff flying around about that at the moment. Who knows though really what's going on there, because the club haven't actually come out and said anything. But regardless of that, the next keeper is basically out of this B team. So I do think we need someone else as backup who's just a little bit more experienced. Everyone wants a striker, don't they, as well? That's the thing.
Yeah, or 2.
Yeah. Luckily, Jordan Rhodes has actually come into a bit of form again, and I think he's looked so much better than Danny Ward this year. You brought in Canberra, who's very interesting. I mean, he scored in the cup game against Preston. His celebration kind of hinted at... I think he's worked under Fotheringham before. He ran straight over to him, give him a big hug. So maybe what he's needed is a manager that believes in him. So you never know with him. I mean, the annoying thing is, like I mentioned, with our injuries, you have like Andrew and Nakayama out now for the rest. Well, Andrew, you don't know. He's been on and off the injury list, but we haven't seen him play for ages. Nakayama's out all season, who started really well this year. We've also just recalled Scott High and Romani Edmonds Green. Scott High from Rotherham, Edmonds Green from Wigan. Personally, I think good call, given that we're in a relegation battle with them anyway. But for me, Scott High's a really good utility player, and just someone who I think you can pop in the middle or kind of a bit in a cam role, and he'll do a decent job. Nathaniel, I actually think we've got a decent enough squad to get out of this. It's whether we can get a consistently fit squad and we don't lose some key players. That's the only problem. I don't really think we need that much more. I mean, you can say you need it, but you've got to look at reality, and Town aren't going to spend money. So maybe a couple of loans, maybe a left back, maybe attacking midfielder or striker, personally.
But how confident are you that you could get those players in, and that they be good enough quality to add to the team?
Well, the one big one at the moment, the big rumour is Knockout coming in.
Oh, okay.
Which all the papers are saying it, which I find very interesting. He's a player that has plagued Town for years. He's one of those players that always seem to have scored against us. What is he, 31? Apparently his legs have gone, but he's someone who I think if Town are getting that delivery right in the box, he's someone who you fancy if it's falling to his feet, he's going to put it away. So someone like him could be very key. I don't think that's going to happen before the whole game though, but I mean, 2 signings already, and what we're on the 11th of Jan. I think there's plenty of time for us to get a couple more in. Yeah, it's just it's obviously very difficult with the current situation of Dean Hoyle wanting to sell. I don't know really what that means in the transfer market, because is he going to put money in when he's not really wanting to own the club anymore as well? It's an interesting situation we're in.
But what about Matthew Lowton? Of course, an experienced right back from Burnley. That's another player you brought in. Are you chuffed with that? Because I think he's probably quite a high caliber player, even though he's getting on a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he brings the experience, doesn't he? He looked very good against Preston. It's just a shame he's not left-footed, because that'd have been perfect. But yeah, I forgot about mentioning him. Yeah, spot on. I think he's someone who is just going to come in at the right moments when you need that bit of experience. And just, like I said, against Preston, even though we lost that game, it just looked like he hadn't not played for a while as well. So that's a good sign, isn't it? He looks hungry to still be playing as well, which is good.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you said about Knockout, because I mean, I think the last few years he's had poor seasons at Fulham and Nottingham Forest. I think was he there under Chris Hughton? He would have been, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So maybe he could have that bit of finishing power up front, but I don't know whether he'd be the one to shoot you up the table. But it's interesting as well that you said that you don't think you need that many more signings, because usually if I was, if my team was in the relegation zone, I'd be panicking. But fortunately, Hull have had some good results. We had been in the bottom 3 on Boxing Day. During that match, we dropped into it because we were losing to Blackpool, but we've made 1 signing. It's about to be 2. I think I'm relatively happy with our signings. But the players you've got at the club, you've mentioned Jordan Rhodes already, and I've got Sorbo Thomas written down here. Who are your danger men who should City fans be worried about? And is Jordan Rhodes not back to his best, of course, but closer to that than being rubbish as he had been?
Yeah. I think in a Town shirt, Jordan Rhodes is always going to give his all. He's said how much the club means to him and everything. And there was a few rumours going around that he was potentially leaving in January, which I thought was strange. And then his game is up then, so I don't know if it's been a bit of like him saying, "Look, I want to stay and I want to try keep this club in this division." He's just a danger man in the area. If you go look at his goal against Rotherham, which was actually outside the box, I mean, it just shows what he can still do, how lethal he is when he has time, especially, and he can compose himself and just can find the bottom corner. Danny Ward's been a bit disappointing this season, given how crucial he was last year and how many goals he got for us. I always think Dwayne Holmes is a handful when he comes up against you. I think he'll cause you troubles always. He's a proper terrier. You call him. He just gets stuck in. He's always fighting. And then Kane Kesler-Hayden, I've quite enjoyed watching recently. He's on loan from Aston Villa. He started quite a lot at the start of the season, then drifted away, but now he's started getting back in the team, and I quite like him. Sorbo Thomas, I mean, he has been apparently, I don't think he's been that bad, but apparently he's been terrible this year, but he's still got our most assists. So, you know what I mean? If he can get back to the form he was on last season, then that will help us a lot. And then Jack Rudoni, who we signed from Wimbledon in the summer, is really starting to push on. I think there was signs of it at the start of the season, but there was no real end product. And very recently, he's got I think about 3 assists under his belt in the last few games. So he's really picking up. He's one of those players where you look at him and you think if he gets that goal, then that really will push him on a bit. It's interesting, Nathaniel, because I look at this league and it's so close, it's so
Oh,
tight.
absolutely.
You go down this season, it's your own fault, but
Oh, yeah.
there's ways of getting out of it, I think, because most games are so close. So it's really interesting this year. And it's a bit annoying in that sense for me, because we had such a bad start to the season, and if we didn't have that, I think we'd be in probably a similar position to you guys, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but it is very close. I mean, a few weeks ago, we were in the same position as Huddersfield, and then, we got a new manager, and some of our injured players had come back, and we've been able to just play to our best. So it's that consistency you need. The most consistent teams in the league always do the best. Because it is, as you said, it's so close. But of course, I mentioned at the start, you've got those wins at Preston and Rotherham. Unfortunately, lost to Luton before the FA Cup, and from a whole player, Reece Burke scored. But do you are those results? Do those give you confidence that you can stay up and get out of where you are at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. The Luton one was disappointing because I hope Fotheringham. I mean, he came out and he kind of gave the players a bit of a mouthful on the radio, but I don't know if that was a bit of him also looking at himself, because he made some, in my opinion, the wrong personnel for the wrong personnel, but it was the right subs if it was different people. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the match, all the right players were on the pitch, but at the time of the substitution, he kind of brought on the wrong person for the other person, if that makes sense. I don't know if I've worded that very well.
Yeah, I get it.
And Luton kind of, their first goal came after Hogg got injured, which was a shame. Hopefully he's back on Saturday, because that kind of showed how much we rely on him in the middle, to be honest. They got that first goal after Hogg come off, and then the second goal came down that dreaded left side that has been causing us problems recently. And apart from that, it was actually a pretty decent performance against a good Luton side who have been in good form. And the way they were celebrating at the end, I think, showed that they almost looked a bit relieved with the result. And it should have been a point, really. So we should be coming in off the back of 7 points, I think, to you, really. But I mean, 6 points in bad. It's clawed us back in there. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think we've got a very good run of fixtures coming up, where we're playing teams in and around us, and that we know we can at least, do you know what I mean, turn up and give them a game, rather than thinking, let's try not concede more than 2.
Yeah, and of course, one of those games is technically us. We are still 16th, but we've had some good results recently as well. So we'll get on to the predictions and the lineup so far. But just generally, how do you think Huddersfield will approach this game? And are you feeling confident about it?
I think we've got to look at the Preston performance away, potentially. I think against you guys, it'd be better to take the lead, obviously. I think when you've maybe gone down a goal, you get a bit more open at the back, and we're not bad at the counter-attacking, which I think would benefit us. So it's a classic cliche, innit? But I think it's whoever scores first could potentially go on to win this game. I mean, I'd be setting up similar to Preston. So we had it was kind of a 3-4-2-1 formation at Preston that we played. Hopefully Nichols is fit. Then we've got Boyle, Hellick, and Lees as the back three. Hellick's come really good. He's looking as good as he was in that terrible Barnsley side. In this terrible Huddersfield side. that says a lot about him. Tom Lee's the kind of experience there. And then Will Boyle, who So that's the interesting bit. Will Boyle plays on the left. Will Boyle has turned it around, looked really great recently, but he's always he's just one of those players who's a little bit, maybe now and again, can slip up, plays the dodgy pass now and again, not 100% consistent. And then I'm guessing he'll play Ruffles left back. We've just recalled Headley on loan who was on loan at Harrogate as well. Harrogate fans have been raving about him. They're gutted that he's left, but he's only 18, so I'd be very surprised if they dropped him in. But
yeah,
you never know, given that's how that side's looking at the moment. I'm hoping for Kasumu and Hogg in the middle. I think they're the type of players you need against you lot. Some two players who are going to give your lads a bit of a kick in, maybe in the middle, just break it up a bit, stop that play forming. Because when I've seen you guys play, I think Seric seems pretty key. It starts with him, and he normally plays that brilliant pass out wide, and then you're off. So I think if we can stop that, and those are two players, you're looking at Jonathan Hogg, and his experience could be very key. Then probably Kesler Hayden on the right, and I'm guessing it'll be Rudoni and Holmes and Rhodes as kind of your front three, probably.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this comment from David, we're due a home win. Of course, Huddersfield are the worst away team in the division, and had only won the one game before the previous league game against Preston, where they won, or previous away game. So, I mean, I'm not 100% confident. We have had some good results, but because of that home form, and one of the Twitter accounts for the Championship put up that we have do you have the worst away record in the league, and can we keep a clean sheet, because we've not kept a home clean sheet in the league all season. So one of those things is going to change, and hopefully it's that we finally get the home win that we've probably deserved on a few of the performances recently. But as you said, if we go 1-0 now, 1-0 down the previous two home games, we've done that, and we've not been able to go on and win the game, even against 10 men. So it is difficult at home at the moment, but Seri's been controlling it, and he's been controlling the game. We've been creating more chances and got those two away wins. So prediction wise, we'll do that in just a second, but before that we're going to start our new sort of gimmick for these previews. It's a joint lineup that I've made for Huddersfield and Hull. And I was going to put 11 Hull players as a joke to begin with. Of course, Huddersfield are in the bottom three. But I thought, winger-wise, Cynic is leaving, and we've not signed Iebowe or something like that from Crystal Palace yet. And then Aliar, he's injured. So I had to put Longman on the left and Thomas on the right. Other than that, it's Hull players except in the defence, where I've got Nakayama, who I didn't know was injured, so I'd have to swap him out. And then Helic is your highest rated player, apparently, and then Nichols in goal, because he's kept more clean sheets than we have. So what are your thoughts on that lineup? Is 4 Huddersfield players too much or too little?
I think it's probably pretty accurate. If Nakayama's fit, it's such a shame, and he got injured just before the World Cup, and he was in that Japan team and everything, and absolutely gutted for him. So he's out for the rest of the season. I think it's pretty fair. I mean, I'd maybe put a shout that Hogg gets in that team, but I think you'd have to change the formation potentially. Or maybe swap Thomas out for Rudoni, because at the moment on form, Rudoni is living up to what Sorba Thomas was last season potentially. But yeah, totally fair, mate. I think. I mean, yeah, Lee Nichols, best keeper in the league, isn't he?
Yeah, well, probably not, but
it's probably the only reason we're just about hanging on at the moment, to be fair to him. And he was the reason that, for me, he was the reason we did so well last year as well.
Yeah, well, I didn't do too much research, so I'm glad that totally fair that's a good review for that. So that'll be coming back next week or whenever I do the next preview, another joint lineup. But we've talked about the lineup you want to do, and Hull's and Huddersfield's best players. So last thing to do is just predict the outcome. So Tom, I'll let you go first.
So we just recorded our podcast, and I tried to be confident, and I actually said 2-0 on that podcast.
Ooh, wow.
To Town as well. But honestly, I think a good result for us would be a draw, 1-1. I wouldn't be surprised with a 1-1 given your form at home. Defensively, we've improved a lot. I mean, I know we conceded the 2 against Luton in this last league game. The cup game, there's too many changes, I think, to really kind of and it was one of those where when we went 2 down, you end up chasing it, don't you, to get back into it. So, but I think 1-1, to be honest, I'd be very happy with that given your form. And I think one thing that we've been struggling with is we haven't drawn many games. It's been one of those seasons where we've either won or lost. So I think at this stage of the season, it's that tight. And normally you'd be like, you need 3 points, but it's that tight. I think any point is good at the moment. So yeah, let's go with 1-1, I think. And I'll say Jordan Rhodes to score because he's getting closer to 100 goals for Town, which would be an amazing landmark.
Yeah, certainly would be for any club, definitely. Well, I think 1-1, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. But I mean, other than, I know you said Huddersfield are winning or losing, under a senior, I think we've had 8 games and 1 defeat. The others have been 4 draws and 3 wins. So I think a draw's maybe the most realistic result. But after the last few positive performances, we've got Benjamin Tete back from injury, and he could make an impact off the bench. So maybe it'll be a tight 1-1, and then he'll score a bullet header, his first for the club, and back from injury. So maybe a 2-1 win. I'm still not confident we'll keep a clean sheet at home. Maybe a nice 0-0 but at the very end of the season, just to say we've got one. But I think it's quite unlikely. Got a comment here. Kirst is saying 2-1 City. So I'm going to say exactly the same. 2-1 to Hull, and hopefully we get our first or our second win in 11 matches at home, which is a really shocking record. How we're not lowering the table, I don't know, but away from home we have been much better. So 2-1, and you're saying 1-1. So
yeah,
fairly similar. I think it might be 1-1 until like the 95th minute. I wouldn't mind a last-minute goal. So, well, I hope you've had a fun time. Thank you very much for coming on. And where can Hull and Huddersfield fans find more from you?
So we are Andy Takes That Chance, which is at Takes That Chance on Twitter. All our stuff's there, really. And I'm at Thomas Bradshaw. If you want to see anything else, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you very much, and good luck for the rest of the season after Saturday. Yeah. And hopefully Hull do win, and then I get to send you a rude message after the game.
Nice one, mate. Yeah, good luck to you. Hopefully we will be playing you next season. We'll see.
Oh, of course, we're hoping to get promoted. I mean, it's an outside chance.
Well, but, you never know. It's that tight, though. It is that tight. You never know. You go on a bit of a run. You never know.
Absolutely. So thanks again. Thank you everyone for listening and commenting, and we'll be back very soon with the main review episode. So thanks again, Tom, and I'll see you all again very soon.